And welcome in another edition of the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. It is always great to have you along. Follow us on Twitter at Chico CLE. Also, you can catch us on YouTube and on Facebook. We got a great show for you today. Of course, it is college hoops. It is brackets. It is tourney time. We're going to talk to John Fanta, Cleveland native, proud St. Ignatius grad. He does great work with Fox covering the college basketball scene. We'll talk to him here coming up in just a bit. A lot of other stuff going on. The Cleveland Browns, wow. The trade for Jerry Jeudy I like. I think most people like it. Low risk, but they took that risk, and then the low risk, and they turned it into a lot of risk by giving him a lot of money. Andrew Berry loves him. He put Jimmy's money right where his mouth was because he liked him and he got him paid. Cavaliers dealing with some injuries. We're going to touch on that. And, of course, the Guardian season is right around the corner. I figured actually next week, today, the season actually started. Like if you're a Dodgers or Padres fan, you had to wake up at 3 in the morning to watch your club. 3 in the morning in Seoul, South Korea. Like, I'm not against having those games, but open the season in the United States in their home field. Your fans shouldn't be watching at 3 in the morning. We're going to be watching the Guardians but that's different. This one was scheduled. Rob Manfred, what are you doing? We'll take a break. We come back talking college hoops with the great John Fanta. It's all ahead right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Alrighty, welcome back. Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. And as always, so great to have you along, and so great this time of the year. We get to talk college basketball. We get to talk March Madness. I think am I allowed to say that? Is that like the Super Bowl boom where I'm contractually obligated, or they could throw me in jail? The guy coming up knows if I'm good or not. John Fanta, one of our favorite guys, and of course Cleveland's own, continues to make us proud in Northeast Ohio. Continues to be a great success covering college basketball for college basketball on Fox, also the Big East. And he joins us now, Mr. John Fanta. John, how are you, sir?
Chico, I'm doing great. It's time for the madness. It's time to dance. I'm excited for the NCAA tournament. This is one of the sporting events, and we don't have to wait every couple of years or whatnot. You just know when your calendar flips, we're in that happy medium.
Yep.
Where baseball has not yet fully begun, where the NFL draft talk's happening, but it's not in full swing quite yet. And the NBA postseason has not yet started. College basketball will always have the perfect window in these 3 weeks. And whether you watched it all season, like I did, or not, it's something that brings sports fans together and something that captivates the country. So I've got a bracket ready. It'll be on fire by Friday night, but it's ready nonetheless. And I can't wait to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I've said this many times. I'll say it again. You're right. You hit the nail on the head, how it brings folks together, like offices. And the thing is, we talk about the pools and who watches and who's the diehard. I've often said, and I'm really not exaggerating when I do say this, I think the person in the sales department, the accounting department, the receptionist, the person that watches no college basketball honestly has just as good a shot, usually sometimes better. Because they're not overthinking it like people like myself going, oh, wait a minute, I got to pick that 512. They just say, well, I like the mascot, or my kid visited this city, so I'm going to pick. Sometimes that's the formula to win this whole damn thing.
We have seen all 4 number 1 seeds make the Final Four together fewer total times than we've seen a 16 seed beat a 1, which has happened twice.
Yeah, one of my other favorite stats, we're going to get to a little bit later, is, and I didn't realize this until I was, getting ready for the tournament and everything, is that this could we'll see, and we'll get your thoughts on it later. Will this be the fourth consecutive season we have a 15 knock off a 2, which is pretty big, pretty big. So we will get to all of that in a second. Here's where I want to begin with you. Obviously, you know all of college basketball, but Big East is certainly your forte. You cover them all season long. I watched Virginia last night as we record this. This is day after day one of the play-in tournament. I'm watching Virginia, and look, over the years, I've admired Tony Bennett. I've admired how he plays, how his teams play. There was a lot of talk about they had no business getting in. They proved that last night. But on top of that, you're the perfect guy to talk to because Rick Pitino and St. John's, your alma mater, Seton Hall. People are like, wait a minute, we got left out for this. What's the reaction from those in the Big East after last night?
Well, they're pissed off. They're angry, and they have a right to be. But they're not the only ones who should be pissed off. Indiana State should be pissed off. Oklahoma should be pissed off. Now, it's not news that an Indiana State gets left out, although this goes back to the problem in college sports that we have, particularly college basketball. Virginia's net, Chico, was 54. This is the metric that the committee gave us 6-7 years ago in place of the RPI. Virginia's net at 54 is lower than a non-tournament team in Utah, a non-tournament team in Ohio State. And it's not the sole metric, but okay, you want to go into the other metrics? Well, Virginia's KenPom was 73. 73, not even good enough to be in a top 68, if you will, even though that's not how it's done. They had 2 quadrant 1 wins, meaning they had 2 wins of high caliber. Seton Hall had 5 and beat UConn. Providence had 6 and no bad losses. St. John's wins 6 of 7, beat Creighton, who's a 3 seed, had a net. If you're going to give us this metric, aren't we supposed to look at it? How is a high major team with a net of 32, they win 6 of their last 7 games, Chico, not included in the NCAA tournament? That's what happened. It just felt like, and this is what my understanding is, the Big East, after UConn, Marquette, and Creighton this year, because that top 3 is so strong, it was hard for the middle teams to beat them. Now, Seton Hall beat UConn and Marquette. That's my gripe. Like, you beat Connecticut. Connecticut has 3 losses. Chico, if I called 8 people into the room, let's just say I'm doing an investigation and I'm looking for the criminal. And I said, but in this case, I'm looking for the team I'm going to put in the NCAA tournament. And I said, okay, present your cases to me. And one of the people said, well, I beat UConn. I'd be like, okay, I have to put you in. Like, you're one of only 3. And you had 20 wins, and you finished 13-7 in your league. It was disrespectful to a basketball conference. It was wrong. They should have gotten at least a 4th. But this goes back to the beauty of March and the tragedy of March.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen if NC State doesn't steal a bid in the ACC. Oregon doesn't steal a bid in the Pac-12. New Mexico ended up stealing a bid in the Mountain West. UAB stole a bid in the American. And congratulations to Keith Dambrot and Duquesne, but they stole a bid in the Atlantic 10. It was a historic championship week for the wrong reasons for those bubble teams, but the Big East is ticked off, and they should be. They got disrespected, Chico. If UConn wins it all, this league will have accounted for 4 of the last 8 national champions, and you only gave them 3 bids to the NCAA tournament? That's not right.
Okay, so all of that said, and we're talking to John Fanta, of course, local boy, does fantastic, does great, as he is now with college basketball on Fox and, of course, covering the Big East, proud St. Ignatius grad. Okay, so all of that said, somebody might listen in on eavesdrop on our conversation and go, well, yeah, all this talk about 68 to 80 or 84 but here, thank you. See, here's what's funny about this, John, and I knew we would see eye to eye here. Like, with the football playoff and all that sort of thing, you have fans that I think might be split down the middle. Maybe some are like, maybe most of them are, yeah, we got to do this. The only people who are for tournament expansion are the commissioners of the conferences, because I haven't met a fan yet that is like, wow, we really need to get more than 68 freaking teams in the tournament.
And it's the commissioners of the SEC,
Yeah,
the Big Ten,
exactly.
and the Big 12. That's it. The Pac-12 is no longer in existence. The ACC, I guess, too, is involved in these talks. The Big East got snubbed, and they're not advocating for tournament expansion.
Yeah.
And I'm not either. The teams that I cover very closely did get snubbed. Under no circumstances should the tournament expand. It would further dilute your regular season. It would absolutely further dilute your regular season. It would lead teams to schedule even softer, Chico, because they'll make it with a win count. It's an awful idea. And I do believe that this is one of the rare occurrences where the feedback is so bad and so negative that it is working. It's working. I think they could expand it to 72 for a compromise. And I freaking hate it. I hate it. But, Chico, if we didn't say anything, they would do this thing to 96.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So I'm going to keep on. I'm keeping on with my rallying cry. I really don't care. You know, I believe strongly that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do not fix it. It's the best postseason in sport. Why are we messing with it? But these football people, they want more, so their teams can get it. And here's the worst part.
Money.
They don't want to expand it. They don't want to expand it for the little guy. The little guy just gets more denounced here. And I think you're going to see them try to form a thing where, well, as you get deeper in the tournament, you'll make more money. We're not going to give out the same amount of money, same amount of revenue shares to the Northeast Conference or the MAC or the Big West, those smaller leagues, the Big Sky. We're not going to give out the same amount of money because revenue sharing is a little bit different now. Get out of here with that. It's all about the money. Guess what? This tournament already makes $1 billion. If not, it's $1 trillion industry between ads, revenue, all their sponsorships, all this stuff. The commercial breaks, Chico, go 4 minutes so they can get every commercial in. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how much this event makes. Preserve the beauty of it. Do not mess with the NCAA tournament.
And with that, we are going to take a break. See, this worked out perfectly, Bohm. I knew that he doesn't usually need much to get him going, get him animated, fired up. John Fanta is fired up, so we're going to take a break. When we come back here on the Chico Bormann Show on the Big Play Sports Network, we're going to get into some of those picks. Number 1 seeds, number 2 seeds. Is a number 2 seed going to go down for a 4th consecutive season? What number ones do we truly believe in? Yes, the upsets. It's all on the way as we talk to John Fanta with college basketball on Fox. He joins us here on the Chico Bormann Show on the Big Play Sports Network. You know, I welcome back. I look forward to the NCAA tournament every year. Now I look forward to the NCAA tournament because I get to talk to guys like John Fanta, Vin Parisi, who John knows very well with the Big East Network and covering them, is also somebody that I've had a chance to talk to over the years. So it's not only the tournament is back, but I get to talk to people that I normally don't talk to unless it's March, which, you know, John does have other interests, which we're going to get into later in the interview. But, man, the tournament is here. Obviously, tomorrow it all tips off. We got another round of play-in games. But let's get into, John, as far as your bracket, and I saw some of the video, and again, very passionate, very animated, talking about, first thing you said was have fun. Have fun. Nobody really wants to, they want to pick those upsets, but I think there's a happy medium. Like, you want to pick the upsets, but then it feels like towards the end when you start getting down to Elite Eight and crunch time, you want to make sure those blue bloods are there because most oftentimes they are. If everyone says this year's tournament is so wide open, do you agree with that?
Well, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Because not at the top. I would be shocked if UConn's not in the Final Four. Shocked. I think they're clearly the best team in this sport. They're 31-3. I know anything can happen. But this is theirs to lose, Chico. They've just been so overwhelmingly good that this is one of the few years where I would say if you had me take one team or the field, this is the most I would ever consider one team.
How are they different from a year ago? Compare,
They're
contrast.
better offensively and they're better defensively, but they're better because Cam Spencer, sometimes it's okay to have a great college player over a good college player who's going to be a great pro. So UConn has a great college player in Cam Spencer. He has mastered what he needs to do to execute. He's a transfer from Rutgers, former 0-star recruit. Yes, 0 stars. He had as many stars next to his name as you and I did out of high school. And this kid is now going to he's part of the best team in the country between him and Alex Caravan at the 4 and Stefan Castle. Like, they've got a one-and-done freshman. But Donovan Clingan changes it all. Clingan is just a monster inside, 22-16 in the Big East Tournament Championship game. And defensively, he's just a menace with the way that he protects the rim. Then you go back to, well, what about their point guard? He's a first-team All-American in Tristan Newton. He is so good. So I do think there's a wide openness in the other 3 regions. I really do. I'm gonna say I think UConn will be there. I don't think that's wide open. I think there's a wide openness in the other regions because North Carolina I have trust issues with.
Yeah,
with them slacking defensively.
I was going to have you rank each number 1. I would think UConn's 1 and Carolina's 4. I don't know about 2 and 3, but
yeah, UConn's 1, Purdue is 2, and that's a greater discussion.
Yep.
Houston's 3 and Carolina's 4. This Chico, we have never had a tournament. Here's what's fascinating about it. I think UConn will be there, and I am picking them. Spoiler alert, I'm picking them to win the national championship here. But we have never gone into a tournament with a more interesting dynamic to a non-blue blood team than there is with Purdue. Because if they don't get it done this year, Chico, if not now, then when?
Yeah. And Matt Painter, here's the thing, Matt Painter has done an amazing job, but you're right. Now you get to that point where, okay, you can't, you at least got to get to the Sweet 16. I mean, at least got to get to the Sweet 16. Last year was an absolute, embarrassment. You've got the reigning national player of the year, probably 2-time national player of the year in Zach Edey. But I think with Purdue, it's one of those where if we see them get off to a decent start, and obviously in advance, then you're going to breathe a sigh of relief. And if you had Purdue going all the way, you're going to be like, okay, these guys can get it done. But they've got to prove it here in these first couple rounds.
They do have to prove it. They're going to get Utah State, who was the best team in the Mountain West in the regular season. Mountain West, a hat tip, in this football-powered world, the Mountain West got 6 bids to the NCAA tournament. Really something for that league. Utah State, Danny Sprinkle inherited nothing on that roster, and they ended up being the best team in this 6-bid league. Amazing job by Sprinkle, who's going to get a power conference job here after this run, presumably Washington. But to me, I just look at Purdue's path, and I think it's very manageable up until what would be an Elite 8 game with Tennessee. The 4 and the 5, Chico, Kansas lost their most impactful player, Kevin McCullough. They're shutting him down with a knee injury.
Yep.
Kansas can lose to Samford. That's a 13 over a 4. And folks, some research for you. Sound smart with your friends. In 11 of the past 15 tournaments, at least one 13 seed has beaten a 4. Take a 13. Consider Samford there. That's not the only one. Consider Yale over Auburn. But for me, the 5 seed there is Gonzaga. Chico, 4 weeks ago, Gonzaga was in many bracketologists' last 4 in, first 4 out. They beat St. Mary's on the road, and then they won they got to the WCC tournament final. How did they go from just making the tournament all the way up to a 5 seed? That's a misseeded 5 seed. The committee seeded Gonzaga off their name. They absolutely did. And guess what? That's to the benefit of Purdue. Purdue already met Gonzaga and controlled them in the Maui Invitational.
And see, okay, so I want to go back to what you said in the East region because I have no problem with, if UConn wins it all. It's always tough to go back to back. But it has been pretty much the consensus around, as far as a lot of the analysts go,
I know
that, well, the Big East or the East region, how did you reward Connecticut by being the number one overall seed when you've got Iowa State who blitzed Houston, you've got Illinois, all these conference champions. So when you say you don't think it's really that tough of a draw, explain that.
I totally disagree with the analysts. Do you know why?
I love that. I love you
Because
go
March
against
Madness makes no freaking sense.
Write that down, Bohm. I love that.
So here's the deal. Everybody watches last week, and they say, wow, that team won their conference tournament. Wow, that team won their conference tournament. Chico, I can't tell you, okay, secretly, how many coaches I have talked to that have said, my goal in my conference tournament is to not get hurt.
Yes. Yep.
You can't look at every game in a conference tournament. And I think a lot of casuals do. They jump in during championship week and they're like, let me watch this team. Let me watch that team. The best thing that happened to Kentucky was they lost in the SEC tournament early. It allowed them to get back to Lexington, to refocus and get ready for this. But why do I think the East isn't as tough? There's no question that the three teams around UConn at the 2, 3, and 4 line are very, very good. But I don't trust Iowa State enough offensively to make a deep to get to the Final Four. I have Iowa State in my regional final. I do. I like them, but I'm a little bit scared of the matchup with Drake. I believe Drake will beat Washington State. And folks, sleeper, Drake has a player named Tucker DeVries. He is the coach's son, Darren DeVries' son. Averages 22 points per game. This guy has a shot when you're watching CBS and the tournament comes on to be one of the faces of this tournament because he's the coach's son and he can get it going. He's a big-time bucket getter. Illinois. Chico, Illinois has an elite player in Terrence Shannon.
Yep.
Whether he should be playing or not is a discussion point in this tournament. It's with Shannon facing rape charges. But he is playing, and he got a restraining order to play. Illinois is a very good team, a great offensive team. They do not guard. They do not defend. They're not a good defensive team. And remember, to win the Big Ten tournament, they beat Nebraska, and then they beat a Wisconsin team that had to face Purdue the day previous to that.
Yeah.
Don't get lost. Don't, in the words of Gene Hackman in Hoosiers, don't get caught watching the paint dry.
God love Fanta. That's one of the many reasons I knew that was coming. Boom, I knew that was coming from him. All right.
Don't get caught. So I'm not buying that the East is crazy chaotic. I know Auburn. Honestly, the place that UConn did get screwed up was on Auburn being a 4 seed. Because Auburn's far.
Auburn scares me. Auburn
is top 5 in the analytics, wins the SEC tournament, and this committee throws a dart at the board and goes 4 seed. I mean, folks, come on. And allow me 10 seconds here, Chico.
Yeah, go ahead.
The people who are like, because you hear this on the TVs. Well, credit to the committee. They did such a, it's a lot of work. I'm not denying that it's a lot of work, but I'm sorry. Spare me the credit that we would give for someone giving their service to their country for people sitting in a boardroom that then go to Harry or Izzy's and St. Elmo's, have shrimp cocktail and a ribeye. Like, spare me.
John Fanta talking college basketball here on the Chico Bormann Show on the Big Play Sports Network. All right, when we come back, now is when you want to grab your brackets. We're going to get to the good stuff, the upsets. 5-12. He already gave you a 4-13. But what about that streak we talked about at the top of the show? A number 15 is knocked off a 2 in 3 consecutive years. Will it be 4? Who's John's Final Four? And before we get out of here, we all know he's a proud Cleveland guy. He's got thoughts on the Browns, the Cavs, the Guardian season upcoming. We're going to tackle that as well. It's John Fanta from college basketball on Fox, also covers the Big East. I'm Mike Chico Bormann. More to come right here on the Big Play Sports Network. And welcome back, Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. As we got all of our brackets handy. Nowadays, I don't know. See, Bone, back in my day, I'm an old guy, and even Fanta. I mean, he's way younger than I am. So back in my day, it was fun to have the sheet, and I had a couple highlighters that I would use throughout the course of the day, and that's how we did, and that's how we liked it that way. Now everything's computerized; it's on your phone. But I still like. Do you carry a sheet around with you, Fanta, or he does?
It's on my kitchen table. You know, my wife, God bless her, this time of year.
Congratulations, by the way, on getting married. Yeah,
thank you very much. My wife Vicky comes home last night, and she works late on Tuesdays, so I got takeout, and we're about to sit down. And she kind of walks by the counter as we're putting silverware together. And my bracket, like, do you ever leave something out and it's in like one of your wife's territories, and it's just like, you're screwed? You know that feeling in the house when you leave something out, and if your wife sees it in that particular place, you're going to get a look.
And you want to try to keep it as pristine as possible. If you leave it out like in the kitchen area, you're liable to get grease stains, mustard, salsa before it's all set. And you don't want that to happen. That kind of ruins the experience also.
No, she could have played a Christmas Story with the lamp and spilled some olive oil on it or something. But instead, she walks by it and rolls her eyes at it like she's going to fill one out too. But just what is that doing here as we're getting ready to sit down for dinner? But yes, I do fill out. You know what I used to do? This is a real throwback. This one I hope some listeners appreciate. My grandpa was a guy by the name of John Coughlin, ruled West Park. The West Park neighborhood was at the public house and the old Red Lantern. I hope people know what I'm talking about.
Any relation to Dan Coughlin?
He is Dan Coughlin's cousin.
Oh, yes. Nice.
So Danny Coughlin and I know, we know each other fairly well and talk every now and then. So there's where some of that energy and humor and excitement comes from, way down the pipeline. It's my dream to do one Friday night touchdown with Danny Coughlin and Ken and the whole game there with Fox 8. It is a dream to do one Friday. One. I would go around and I'd go and do it. I love high school football in Northeast Ohio. But I digress. He taught me, he said, the best bracket to fill out is this massive old plain dealer would put out the whole bracket with TV times and locations, and it was awesome. And you'd fill it out. But the problem is it was newspaper. So by the end of it, you could barely see what your picks were in pencil.
All right, John Fanta joining us. So, all right, here, one of my favorite things here. I mentioned this to you a while ago. We're going to get to some upsets, but I want to know. I can't wait any longer. A 215 has happened 3 consecutive years. Now, I mean, for those that don't follow, that's a huge deal. I mean, if you get it,
that is a huge upset.
Right, very big. So here we go. 2 versus 15. We got Iowa State and South Dakota State, Marquette and Western Kentucky, and then Arizona, Long Beach State, Tennessee, and St. Peter's. Yes, if you're thinking, I remember St. Peter's, yet for good reason. Any of those 15s going to knock off a 2, John Fanta?
I don't have it in mind this year. This is not the St. Peter's of a couple years ago, although we walked into that one thinking it wouldn't happen. So never say never. I don't think that this will happen, but I would expect Western Kentucky to maybe hang around a little bit longer with Marquette than usual, only because this is going to be Tyler Kolek's first game back after missing 6 games with an oblique injury.
Well, they missed the hell out of him, too.
They really did, and they did get to the Big East Championship game without him, which is telling. I expect Western Kentucky to maybe hang around. The one where I do think is Iowa State, and I think everybody's on the bandwagon of they could make the Final Four. They're that good. But Chico, again, you come off the Big 12 tournament. You have to go through a lot of physicality.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to win that thing. That league is really, really tough. 8 tournament teams in that league, the most of any conference. And so I'm a little bit curious to see how Iowa State now handles the spotlight on them. All year long, we've been saying they don't get enough attention. Well, they got more than enough attention here as the 2. And South Dakota State,
The Jackrabbits.
the Jackrabbits, they have a connection here in that Eric Henderson, their head coach, who's done a great job there. They went dancing a couple of years ago. He and TJ Otzelberger have worked together.
Oh, wow.
There's some South Dakota State ties there. So I'm curious here to see what happens because Henderson was Otzelberger's assistant at South Dakota State. They know what each other's doing. And when you look at South Dakota State, like even as a 15, that team's not far off outside the top 100 in KenPom, the advanced analytics. They're just outside the top 100 in offense. They can score. And to have any shot against Iowa State, you got to find a way to break through their defense, which is the best in college basketball. Zeke Mayo is their lead guard, and the junior averages 19 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists per game. William Kyle averaging 13 points per game. They have 4 in double figures. I think the Jackrabbits could hang around. I just don't see it with the others. I don't see St. Peter's, down the bottom, Arizona, Long Beach State. Long Beach State is the wildest story in this tournament. Their head coach, Dan Monson, got fired a week and a half ago and then won the conference tournament.
Love it.
So does this guy get a bonus for making the NCAA tournament? He should.
Yeah, that's one of those. I'd be curious to hear like what the conversations are behind closed doors with that. Because you're not expecting that to happen in the administration. But anyway, yeah, you're right. Good story there. All right, 5-12s. We got to get some of these. One of the ones I keep hearing about is Grand Canyon over St. Mary's. The other one a lot of people like, and you mentioned, and I'm with you, Gonzaga a bit high as a 5 seed, McNeese State. Who are some of those 5-12, 4-13s? I know you already mentioned Drake, but who are some of those upsets you like?
James Madison over Wisconsin.
Ooh.
All right. Again, sound smart with your friends here. I'm trying to help the whole group make some cash potentially. This is a great stat. James Madison is 17-0 this season when they shoot 37.5% or better from 3. Wisconsin gives up the highest 3-point percentage of any team in the field of 68.
Oh, boom. That's some serious info right there. Serious info from Fanta. All right.
I like James Madison to beat Wisconsin. I'm a little bit turned off by the McNeese Gonzaga. It feels like everybody's on it.
They are.
When was the last time Mark Few lost in the first round? Like, it just doesn't happen. San Diego State will beat UAB. Grand Canyon St. Mary's is one of the best matchups in the entire first round. Watch the game. Grand Canyon has a kid named Tyon Grant Foster. His heart stopped a couple of years ago. Had to get resuscitated. Thought he'd never play again. Is now leading Grand Canyon to the NCAA tournament. They're good. They can score. St. Mary's has a great guard, Naden Mahaney. I love the matchup. I think it goes right down to the wire. St. Mary's by a whisker because they can say a prayer to St. Mary's at the under 4 timeout.
All right. We will take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to get John Fanta's Final Four. And as I said, proud Cleveland native, his thoughts. Browns, Cavs, Guardian season. It's all on the way. Chico Bormann Show. More to come right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Oh, love talking college hoops this time of the year, and nothing better than being able to do it with our good buddy John Fanta. He's with Fox College Basketball on Fox, and of course also covering the Big East. And it just so happens that UConn team that he knows very well, who are the defending champions. Well, we know he already let that cat out of the bag, so he likes UConn to win it all. But John, your Final Four, is UConn the only 1 seed that you have making it to the desert?
No, they are not.
Ooh, all right. I'm going to say, let me take a guess. I'm going to say that you have Purdue in the Final Four.
I do not have Purdue.
I missed it.
Again, I do not fade conference tournament performance. So just because they got the you know what kicked out of them in the Big 12 title game.
Houston.
I think it's a good thing for Kelvin Sampson. I like Jamal Shed. I think he's the toughest guard in the country. LJ Cryer's a shot maker. They've got enough. They've got enough inside. They don't have an elite center, but they just guard, Chico. They guard, guard, guard. I go with Houston. I like Houston to make the Final Four. The way that they've done it, 30-4 in their first year in the Big 12, that's remarkable, man. Like that is really just an amazing season to think that they transitioned to college basketball's best conference and that they are 30-4 on the season. So Houston is in there. Tennessee beats Purdue in the regional final. I like the Volunteers. Rick Barnes goes to his second Final Four. Why? His team does more than defend. They can score it. Dalton Connect is a bucket. And rounding it out, Caleb Love and Arizona get to the Final Four. An Arizona Wildcats team that will be playing the Final Four in Glendale.
Okay, I was going to say, so North Carolina, we won't have that Caleb Love, RJ Davis hookup, but that would be quite the drama, quite the story if it materializes.
If it happens. Yep.
Okay, so there's this Final Four. As you said, you've got UConn cutting down the nets for the second straight year. Before we get you out of here, bud, a lot going on here. Not just a one-trick pony. We know that. You know your college hoops, but you love your Cleveland sports. Let's start with the Browns. Your thoughts on the season that was. They just had a big move where they extended Jerry Jeudy following the trade. Quick thoughts on the Browns.
Well, first off, that was the most magical Cleveland Browns season that I've seen in my lifetime. I'm 28, and looking back on this past season, the win over the Chicago Bears, Chico, is top 3 most improbable Cleveland Browns wins I've experienced in my lifetime. They were going nowhere in that football game. Nowhere. It looked done and over with after 3 quarters. Joe Flacco just injected a professionalism and a maturity to the organization that you found was so refreshing. Refreshing. The playoff performance against Houston. Houston was really good. They had a great year, and I think it was bad for the Browns that they had just played them on Christmas Eve. And not only played them, but beat the brakes off them. It's no excuses. It's an explanation. I am not a Kevin Stefanski critic. I'm not a hater. To be honest with you, he's brought this organization to heights that they haven't experienced since they came back, and he's been consistent. And I know people sometimes get bored by Kevin, but he's paid to win football games, and he won a lot of them this past year. I like the changes. I like the changes at coordinator. I like what they did with Dorsey, bringing him in. You got to rip the Band-Aid off sometimes, and they did. Special teams were much better this past year. Refreshing. Defense, much better. Jim Schwartz, I thought, I want to see a little bit of adapting here. And I know that's maybe being harsh because the defense had a nasty year at home. As the season went on, they could not really be relied upon away from home. And I get a little bit fearful of that in this league. And I also look at it like the defense can't be a whole lot better than they just were this past season. So the offense has to do some adapting. What's the state of the organization? Well, the state of the organization is, number one, they play in the hardest division in football. So that's a challenge. Like that division is really, really tough. The Bengals aren't going to stay down forever. The Steelers obviously are making moves because they're tired of losing, and the Ravens are the Ravens. They're just so tough. The Jerry Jeudy deal, it's a lot of money. Like, it's a lot of money for a guy who I just read finished Pro Football Focus graded Jerry Jeudy 61st among wide receivers who got at least 20% of their team's targets in 2023.
Yeah.
And the year before that, he was 21st. The Browns are paying him money to be much better than those two things. This is on the Browns.
Barry believes in him. Barry's loved this guy for 2 years. Yeah, you're right.
Well, he better be right
Yep.
on this one. But I think for them, this all comes down to number 4. It does. It always has.
Mm-hmm.
Chico, if he had not gone into Baltimore and won that game, but he did. I'm not in the world of horseshoes.
Yeah.
If he had not gone into Baltimore and won that game, I think our whole feeling and emotion would be in a rough spot overall. Because he won that football game and because of the state of the organization and the people within it, and there's enough good that says to me they believe in what they have with Watson, and they better be right on this because thus far it's been more lows than there have been highs. It's all or nothing now, and if it doesn't work out this upcoming season with Deshaun Watson, the ripple effects of not just him but people organizationally are going to not just be questioned but critiqued because at the end of the day, Chico, you are judged on not just making the postseason but going on a postseason run when you're in the position the Cleveland Browns are in right now.
Okay, about 30 seconds for each here. Cavaliers, we know Boston seems to be world beaters right now. I don't think anybody's beating them, but the Cavaliers, do they have a better showing this postseason than they did last year?
I think that they win a first round series.
Okay.
I do think they win a first round series. I just don't trust them beyond that. I think they're a really strong regular season team that I just question their toughness level in the postseason. You know, I said this last year on a certain station in Cleveland, and it got a lot of negative feedback that I thought that it would be best for the Cavs to capitalize on the Donovan Mitchell window and potentially be bold and make a bold move at the time. They did not. They just tinkered their roster, but they're not in a significantly better position to win a championship, and that's my issue.
Okay. All right. Guardians, finally, as the season is about to, a week from Thursday, the season opens up for the Guardians in Oakland. And, well, you and I, we're seam heads. We love baseball. Give me your thoughts on new manager Stephen Vogt.
Well, isn't it fitting that the Guardian season for the diehards will start with games in Oakland where we all can be up at 12:30 a.m. questioning what Stephen Vogt's doing? I can't wait because so I'm in these Guardians group chats, Chico. I'm sure you got your baseball, junkies that are just into it every day. Like I got guys on talking through contract restrictions and why DeLauder's going to start the year in Akron and all that stuff. It doesn't end. But Chico, for me, this is a really curious year for the Guards. The Gavin Williams injury is brutal. For where this team is, and I think they'll be able to pitch enough. You got the Shane Bieber situation here, where he's obviously come up a number of times and in trade talks and whatnot. But I think the honest expectation is we don't know what to expect. Like this could be a good club that has some, but they're counting on guys that frankly, I don't know if they've got the upside to fully break out, and they're counting on them to break out. And it remains until the Guardians get a capable to solid outfield. It's hard for me to think that they're a team that can be a serious threat. And I also wonder how much the division that they're in clouds some of the overall issues that they face right now as an organization. So good pitching, a couple of the Steffen injury, brutal as well. Like Trevor Steffen's a really good reliever. I'm excited to see Stephen Vogt. I got to be honest, Chico, I'm not going to get overly judgy on his first season. I'm not.
I agree.
I'm not going to do that. You know what? I think they'll be capable. I think they'll give us something to care about in July, but I just don't think that they're a particularly great baseball team.
Well, he is one of the best in the biz, and we absolutely love talking to him, and not just college basketball. You heard him give us some of his thoughts on the Browns, Cavs, and Guardians. But, college hoops is where it's at. He does a great job for Fox covering college hoops and the Big East. John, all I can tell you is, I tell you this all the time, you just continue to amaze me, and I think a lot of us here, the passion, the talent, and you just continue to make us all proud. Continued success, buddy. Congrats on the nuptials, and we got to do this again during baseball season. How's that?
I am totally in for that. I would love to join you, Chico. I'll join you anytime. You guys are awesome at Big Play. You're doing great things, and it's refreshing. It's a refreshing form of content that you guys are doing in the Cleveland sports landscape, and I commend you on everything, and thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to join you.
Keep up the great work, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
Happy March, everybody.
There you go. A lot of shows do at the end, I'm smarter because I'm always more knowledgeable about the college basketball scene, and I like to think I follow it, not an app feverishly, but I follow it quite a bit. But when we talk to John Fanta, you're going to gain some knowledge. He likes UConn to cut the nets down. I don't think they get out of the East. That's my. I think they're in that, and they're a great team. Don't get me wrong, they're a great team. I don't think they get by Auburn. That's going to be my upset pick in that region. We'll get to plenty other ones as the tournament goes along. But great stuff from John Fanta. We got, as we said, the Cavaliers still dealing with more injuries. This nasal fracture with Donovan Mitchell gives his knee more time to heal up. My gosh, is this ever going to end? And then the Guardian season, of course, right around the corner. So a great time of the year, a great, great time of the year. And we're certainly glad you could join us. And we're going to do it all again next week when we will have a much clearer picture of the NCAA tournament, getting ready for the guard season and seeing how the Cavs are healing up. So looking forward to it. Thanks to John Fanta. Thanks to you. Michael Bohm produced. I'm Mike Chico Bormann. Until next time, for all of us here at the Big Play Sports Network, make it a great week, everybody.